move on to the next session. I'm sorry today we are running a little bit late, so there won't be a break. Uh, we will quickly introduce the next speaker, Dr. Rupa Manjunath.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Adarsh.
Madam, very good morning. Sorry to make you wait for some time.
No, that's fine.
I will just give a brief introduction about Dr. Rupa Manjunath. So she received her PhD from IISc Bangalore in the area of biomedical instrumentation in 2014, and she received MTech ME degree in the specialization of instrumentation and control from BITS Mesra Ranchi in 2008. She worked as a postdoctoral fellow in the Center of Biomedical Engineering, IIT Delhi from 2015 to 2000. Has been reported in the for its novelty and usefulness. From 2018 till date, she's been working as assistant professor in the Energy Institute, Bangalore, with a total experience of around 12 years, both industry as well as teaching. Her research interests are mainly focused in the areas of smart sensor, wearable device application in oil and gas industry, safety and occupational hazards management system, automotive safety, gas sensor, breath analyzers, and EV propulsion systems and controllers. I welcome you, ma'am, to this 5-day faculty development program on electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Now the platform is yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Adarsh, for opportunity to be a part of this FTP as a resource. So this session, actually, I'm very grateful to Mr. Manjunath. Just I was listening to speak. I mean, it was really wonderful. Maybe I can say maybe I can say my presentation is just an introduction about the electric vehicles and hybrid electric vehicles, but most of the things Mr. Manjunath has covered. Especially am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Yes, you're audible.
So I'll be giving an brief introduction. Like, I hope the participants are from interdisciplinary sections. So my presentation will serve you as a very, very basic things like introduction to this electric vehicles and hybrid electric vehicles. So especially the architecture of parallel and all those things were in my presentation. If you have any doubts or anything to answer or question me, just ask me then and there also. It's okay with me. Then we'll kind of have of session. If possible, I might ask some things in between, like, if you can answer, please. I'll be very happy to take that answers. Okay, let me start now. Yeah, is my screen visible?
It is visible, ma'am.
So as I told you, so my presentation is fundamentals of electric and hybrid vehicles. So myself, Dr. Rupa Manjunath, I think Mr. Adarsh has gave a brief introduction about me. So the contents, what in presentation I am going to do is on introduction, plus I'll be introducing you the hybrid electric vehicles. I think many are aware of that because many faculties and students are there, but I'm giving a very brief introduction. Then we will study about the past of an electric vehicle, how the electric vehicle has coming to the existence. I'm like when the electromagnetic induction was introduced. Okay, so that time the DC motor, the first DC motor has been introduced or has been invented. Basically, I can say invented. So from that time, the electric that DC motor has also been applied for electric vehicles. So the present and the future, I mean, basically the future was very by Mr. Manjunatha in the previous session. So there are certain problems with the existing electric vehicles, especially the range and the cost, which the industries and the academia both has to meet that in together with a together effort. Then the EV concepts. So what are the concepts that the EV should have? Then the core EV technologies. I think the EV technologies mainly are into different streams, like starting from the mechanical, then electrical engineering, then electronics, then information science, computer science. Many things are, or many skills are required, or many key technologies are required for this electric vehicle technologies. Then the EV configurations, block diagram of an EV configuration. So what blocks come what, and what are the functions of those blocks we'll see. Then EV propulsion system, especially the power electronics and the motors, they form a very important role in your EV propulsion systems. Then comes to the energy sources. Okay, so then energy sources are very important for any of your vehicle, that it can be a EV or it can be your ICEV or it can be your fuel cells, anything. So energy sources play a very important role. Then we will be seeing an hybrid electric vehicle configurations. So we will see what is the main difference between your electric vehicle and why do we need a hybrid electric vehicle, which is the future of your automobile sector. So nowadays, from now on, whatever the automobile industries will plan, so maybe they can go for a pure electric vehicle. They should have at least an hybrid. I think Maruti Suzuki is coming for smart hybrid. Then we'll have a very brief introduction about the automotive safety. Then the state of art HEVs we will see. So these are the contents what will be presented, what you can expect from my presentation. So if you could see a graph here, so this is 2000 and this is 250, so 2050. If you see the population and the number of vehicles when compared to your 2000 and 2050, so the population, if it increases from 6 billions to 10 billions, the vehicles also will increase somewhere from 1 billion to somewhere 2.5 billion. You see the number of vehicles, it has been almost doubled by 2050. So now, why these graphs play a very important role for electric vehicle is, the main thing is, if so much of vehicle increases, then where would the pollutions will go? The first question is about the emissions. Okay, where will be the emission go? Because nowadays we all are aware of that, because of the greenhouse gas effects, lot of problems already we are facing. Actually, the transport industry is also one of the major source of our greenhouse gases. So now the number of vehicles are also increased because of the increase in the population. So definitely these emissions will be toxic in nature. The second main question is, where does the oil come from? Because we know that oil is getting depleted, okay, because it is non-renewable in nature. So we have to produce more oil, and oil and the fossil fuels are depleting in nature. So if the vehicles increase, then we should have a source. So where that oil comes from? If we are talking about the normal ICE vehicles, that is the internal combustion engine vehicles. So these are the two main parameters which actually pushes us to alternative thing. Alternative to your ICE is the electric vehicles. And as I told you, the electric vehicles is not a new concept. Okay, the electric vehicles are not the new concept. They are the very old concept. They are the very old concept. But maybe over the period of time when ICE they lost their prominence because of the technology advancement in the ICE. But since the problem with the oil and the emissions are cornering this ICE, so the electric vehicles is again taking back its own form. So the environmental protection and energy conservations are the growing concern. So as I told you, because of the increase in the vehicles, and the vehicles are the main source of the pollutions. So need for the third thing is very important is, okay, we have an electric vehicles, but it has to be sustainable in nature for the 21st century. Because if the electric vehicles what we get is not sustainable in nature, then definitely people are not going to put money on them, or they're not going to buy them. So the technology what we use in the electric vehicles has to be sustainable in nature. Then if they are sustainable in nature, then they will be forming a sustainable road transportation system. Then what are the advantages of an electric vehicles? they will provide an emission free, okay, they can provide an emission free urban transportation, because you will be having a, they can, if you go for a pure electric vehicles, it is a complete zero emission will happen from them. Then offer secure, comprehensive, and a balanced energy options like renewable energies. Okay, currently for the energy, see, electric vehicles, again, I'll tell you one problem with the electric vehicle is, if you want to charge an electric vehicle, if you're using a fossil fuel based thermal power plants to charge this one, then again the electric vehicle will not solve the 100 purpose, will not solve its own purpose, okay, of its existence, because though the output of the electric vehicle is zero emission, but the input for the electric vehicles is where from the fossil fuel industry. So again, it is again contributing to the emission. But instead of that source, if you go for a renewable kind of energies, okay, like you have a wind, you have a solar, you have a tidal, any kind of renewable energy source, if you are able to generate electricity, and that electricity can be used for this electric vehicles, especially the charging these electric vehicles, then electric vehicles, the existence of electric vehicles will be very okay. Then the most intelligent to improve the traffic safety and road utilizations. I think in the previous session, Mr. Manjunath was talking about all the information sciences, or all the technologies which has to be used nowadays in the Tesla cars, especially was talking about the Tesla cars. So they were actually planning to make their cars very intelligent and autonomous. That is the driver-free cars. So with this electric vehicles, with the mature in the technology of power electronics or the electronics and the computer science, so we can have safer electric vehicles. Okay, the future will be of safer electric vehicles with a less number of collisions and less number of accidents. And also we can use the road very because as the population in the urban areas are not increasing, not built in the way the urbanization is happening. Okay, so the infrastructure, especially the road, is limited, and if the number of vehicles are used in this road or more, then the problem of traffic, everything will come. So by using and by enhancing, by improving the intelligence into the electric way, by putting an intelligent factor into this electric vehicles, we can actually intelligently use the road utilization. Then they have a great impact on energy, environment, and transportation. So the electric vehicles actually make a lot of difference when compared to your IC engines in the energy, environment, and transportation. Then the new industry creation and economic development. This is very important. This is very important for any country, because if the industry is coming up, then lot of job opportunities will be coming up there. So if the job opportunities are there, then the economic will be developed. Okay, the economic situation of that country will be developed. So your electric vehicles is also providing you an, and is also providing you an government. Nowadays the government are very serious of this electric vehicles. So the vehicles can be basically classified into based on the load, like HTV, LMV, that is light motor vehicle, and the heavy transport vehicle. Based on the wheels, that is two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four or six-wheeler vehicle. The transmission, this is very important. You can have a conventional gear-based transmission, then the semi-automatic and the automatic kind of transmission. Then the position of engine, the engine can be present in the front or back. Then the fuel used. This is also very important. So these are the two things where your electric vehicles will stand apart. Okay, these are the two things. One is the transmission, one is the fuel use. So for your electric vehicle, the transmission will be having a semi-automatic or automatic. So basically nowadays the gearless vehicles are coming, especially in the electric vehicles. And basically the fuels used in your electric vehicles is the electric bar, the battery storage, when compared to your ICE. So these are the very basic classification of your vehicles. I think everyone are very much aware of this. So now coming to the types of EV and HEV. So as I told you, hybrid means, what is an hybrid? Hybrid is nothing but if you put two sources together, okay, it can be in the form of energy or it can be in the form of propulsion. Okay, you can hybrid two things. One in the form of energy source. Energy means you can actually use your fuel, plus you can use the electricity as an energy source. Propulsion, you can use your motors as well as you can use your IC engine. So you can have two kinds of hybriding. So in the hybrid electric vehicle, you have, since you're using two different things, okay, since you're using two different things for traction, so they can be connected in the form of series, in the form of parallel, they can be put in form of complex form, that is in the form of series and parallel. Maybe in the later slides, I'll show you the architecture of the series parallel and series parallel, so it will be clear. Then comes to the second type, that is the plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. So in this plug-in, as the name only says, here your battery will be charged by the external source. Okay, by the external source. Your battery is not charged on board. It is using the plug-in like from the sockets. Okay, from sockets of your home, the battery is getting charged. Then the battery electric vehicle. So here also charge your battery. You can charge plug-in or on board also it is possible. Propulsion systems, what we are using here is, from now on in the pure battery vehicles, these two are the hybrid vehicles. Upon from now on, you can have a single traction motor. That is the single traction propulsion system. That is only a motor. Then the fuel cell electric vehicles, they are also a future, because a lot of R&D is going on in this one also, where you are using the hydrogen. So either you can store it in a very compressed form, or you can convert them by using an reformers on board. And then in future, you can have in solar electric vehicles, where this is very, very important, because it is actually using the renewable source. Okay, the renewable source here, anyways, the battery is required here. So that battery will be charged by using the electric solar panels, and the propulsions, what we are using in all these things is the electric motors. So now coming to the history of an EV. So as I told you, in the year 1831, when Faraday invented this electromagnetic induction law, so the DC motor was invented. And as soon as this DC motor was invented, so this was where your electric vehicle actually was started. And they had a very golden period. The electric vehicles marked in very golden year 1890 to 1924, with the peak production of electric vehicles 1912. So during this period, your electric vehicles have actually outnumbered, the sales of the electric vehicles were outnumbered by, they outnumbered this ICE vehicles. So the major driving force for the development started actually in the year 1970s. There was a huge shortage of oil because of some problems in the Middle East countries. So there started the problem of oil and the gasoline shortages. So this is the time again which made the government to rethink about your electric vehicles. So this is the time where the government started rethink about the electric vehicles, because that time they found that we cannot ever and ever depend upon this oil and the gasoline which are available in the form of fossil fuels. So that is why in the year 1976, the USA launched the Electric and Hybrid Vehicle Research, Development, Demonstration Act under the Public Law of 94 to 413. Along with that, some private players like your GE and all. So this, GM. So the USA government, they launched a new act, which is extensively, or which is especially related to your electric and hybrid vehicle research and development. So in order to support that, during the year 1968, the California Institute of Technology, that is Caltech, they actually developed a vehicle, and they ran the vehicle from Caltech to the MIT. But however, during this race, it was a failure, because lot of components were failed in that time, because the technology was not matured, and this was the first time some commercial EV was built. Okay, this was that too means for the longer range. Initially, you could see, I told you in 1980 from this is EVs, but the disadvantage is here the range. Okay, cover as much of range in a single charge. But at the year of 1968, this universities, they joined, and they actually come up with a commercial vehicle, where they in order to demonstrate the capability of their research and developed vehicle, so they arranged for in racing. But however, that race was failure because of the components failure. Then again, they regenerated, and in the year 1998, again the commercially built EV was running from Los Angeles to Detroit, and they exhibited a very successful race with no component failure. So this year, actually, when they built a commercial EV, and there was no failure. This boosted their confidence in the electric vehicles, both in the researchers as well as among the government. So if you want a timeline vehicle development, so 1769, the origin of the steam engines began. Then in the year 1806, the first internal combustion engine was built on the fuel gas. Then first successful gas-driven engine. Then this at the year of 1913. So this is the golden age of electric vehicles, that is 1890 to 1924. So here the peak production of EV started at 1912. Then not one EV at auto show. So this is the year where the decline was starting. So where the decline was happened of this EV. Why this decline was happened, maybe we'll see in the next slide. Maybe because of the range and the cost. Okay, these are the two things. Mainly, these are the two things why this EV started to disappear during region. During this, sorry. So here during 1960, the domination of gasoline entered the market. Then the concept, prototype, and serious design of EV was thought at 1960, and during the 1970, because of that, actually the technology started maturing. So 1980, the incorporate technology advanced in the EV design. Then first generation of EV was actually developed at 1990. Then from 2000, since the EVs have also a lot of disadvantage, sorry, not lot, the main disadvantage is your range. So hybrid started Nexon is already Tata Nexon is already in the Indian market, especially the electric of the Tata Nexon motor in the 19 level. This made the gas vehicles easier to start. Okay, so this is the first step which actually made the gasoline based engine very easy to start. The second thing is improvements in mass production of Henry T gas powered car vehicles. You see the price, actually it has dropped from $50 compared $850 to almost, it has come 1/4 of this number. So, and also the EVs were very, very expensive. So though the technology matured, but the cost of the EVs have not dropped in this ratio. So this is the second thing why the EV started to disappear from the market. Based vehicle started to dominate. The third thing is very, very important, but facing that problem, that is the electricity to charge. Okay, so we should have a proper charging infrastructure. This is one of the main hindrance of actually getting your EV very much popularized among the common people. So also in the rural areas, though in the urban areas, the electrification was good, but in the rural areas, they had a very, very limited access. So that is why the gasoline again started to make appearance in your rural areas very easily. At present, the major driving force of EV is the environment issue. So this is one of the major, even the government, several governments for zero emission policies. Somewhere many governments. So this is the one of factor again why the industries are again thinking back of the. So the future, what lies in the future of EVs? Can EVs be made affordable? So this affordability on the range and the cost. Basically the cost. Okay, if you think as a normal person, if you normal person is it means non-technical person, first the whatever the person will see, the person will see first the cost, whether can I afford that. The second thing is the comfort, whether the charging stations are available at my reach. If the charging stations are not available at my reach, then we will think like actually for a full charge, it might take minimum 5 hours. It might minimum 5 hours. But you compare this time for refueling tanks for your ICEs. So then again, the people will think that is very easy because within 10 minutes, you can fill up the entire tank when compared to this 5 hours. So these are the main hindrances why the EVs are not very much popular. So the development of, so what can be the solution for the range? Actually, we have to put lot of development advancements, or R&D should happen in the batteries, design of the batteries, such as nickel metal hybrid, zinc air, or lithium ion are in progress. So people are working to improve the range. Then development of fuel cells of EVs had taken an accelerated pace in the recent years, focusing on solid polymer fuel cells. Then HEVs essentially improve the range and performance of easier, but here comes the problem is with the higher complexity, which the technical complexity I'll be talking about, then comes to the cost. So these two are the things which is actually driving your hybrid electric vehicles. Then the cost, so what are the solution for higher cost? Efforts are being made to improve the various EV subsystems like electric motors, power converters, electronic controllers, energy management units, battery chargers. So these are the major subsystems of your EVs. Actually, we have to work in a block for minimizing the cost for the subsets. So the effort has to be made at the global level. That is, first is combining the strength of East and West countries to solve the EV production cost by combining low labor cost and high-tech facilities. The second thing is the restructure the global business environment to create a sustainable global market for EVs. The last thing is to lease a battery pack for an EV so that the user can just has to pay for the rental cost and the electric cost. Actually, the third business model can be, okay, it can be working out in the Indian type of scenario rather than waiting for 5 hours. If you can swap the batteries with the full charge batteries, if that option is available, so it will be as easy as refueling your system, like with the gasoline in the car. So we just go to the shop, we swap the batteries with, then we come, we fit in, drive the car. So this model can be beneficial, be considered for the future of EVs, but for that the effort has to be made in the form in the global level. Then coming to the EV concept, I think in the last presentation, Mr. Manjunath was talking about the including various subsystems or the various roles of engineering branches in the design of EV. So the EV, as he said, it is not a single machine. It is not a single component where only a one kind of engineer, or mainly a mechanical engineer, or only an electrical engineer is needed. Actually, EV is a combination of many engineering skill sets. Okay, and the EV, what we thought in the initial is completely different from the EV machine or the EV what is available on road currently, because it is having lot of it includes the skill sets of lot of engineering skills. So the system architecture of EVs is very different from that of IC EVs. So the EV system architecture, they consist of, in the mechanical system, I mean to say, what are the mechanical engineers can come is in the body and chassis, in the design and development of body and chassis, propulsion structure, transmission, energy source frame, road characteristics, cache worthiness, interior space, then the assembly time, serviceability, and cost. I think so. These are the things where the mechanical engineers can pull in. Whereas coming for your electrical and electronic engineers, they can play a very, very active role in designing a power network. That is, you are converting your AC to DC, or you can have a buck boost converters, kind of inverters, the motors, lot of, you can have a BLDC, you can DC, you have an induction, this IM motors, all these motors are there. Many more motors can be used here for the propulsions, then the controllers, and then the energy source system. And that is the energy management, very important role because of then safety. Yes, nowadays considering safety as one meter for deciding to go for which car. Then the regulation and standards, these are related to the government policies, then the efficiency, reliability, weight, and cost. Then coming to the information subsystems. So nowadays, everything is coming in the voice command. So now you just, the driver will give a voice command to your car that he wants to go and visit that place. So your car should be able to navigate to that place. Then the vehicle operating status. So what is the current temperature, the vehicle, the tire pressure, everything has to be displayed on the dashboard. Then the energy source, controller, motor, and the charger status has to be displayed on the dashboard or the instrumentation panel of your vehicle. Then the communication network, that is in the first slide I told about the traffic and the road utilization. So you have to communicate. If you have a central node system or a central control system, you have to communicate there. Then the data controllers, and lot of data will be logged inside the system. So you should have a nice data logger, data controllers, or a data analytics, or you have an electronic managing EMU. You will be having an electronic engine monitoring systems. Then processing algorithms, lot of algorithms will be running because of the motors, okay, because of the motors. Then the communication links for diagnostics. If you have any problem, if any problems has been developed inside the car, so it has to self-diagnose and it has to display that message on the dashboard or to the driver, communicate to the drivers or the owners of the car. Then the charging control regulations and standards, either it is a deep discharge or an overcharge, that has to be controlled. And as per the standard of the battery specification sheets, it has to, the control algorithms has to be taken care. So these are the basic concepts of an EV. It is having mainly 3 subsystems. Then based on these 3 things, you can actually summarize the EV concept into this simple forms. The first thing is the EV is a road vehicle based on modern electric propulsion, which consists of electric motor, power converter, and energy source, and it has its own distinct characteristics. And it is not just a car, but a new system for our society, realizing a clean and efficient road transportation. EV is an intelligent system which can readily be integrated with the modern transportation networks. Then it can be designed, the design involves the integration of art and engineering. Then the operating conditions and the duty cycles must be newly defined based upon the drive cycles, whether it is for urban drive cycles or rural drive cycles, or it can be your highway, or it can be your city drive cycles. So based on that, the operating conditions has to be predefined. Then you have to see the users' expectations must be studied. This is very, very important for the automobile industries. They have to see what actually, because the users are the one who are the end users are the one for whom you are actually putting so much of effort, putting so much of money, investing so much of money into your car. So it is very, very important for you to study and see what are the expectations of the users, and based on that, appropriately, actually you have to educate the users, okay, how to use and technology. Nowadays the automatic system has come, where everything is I mean to say, for an example, the keyless entry system has come in the car. So now, but many of the people are very much aware of using a normal keys to start the car, but now it is a start button. So you have to actually educate that people. And if you just press the accelerator pedal, the acceleration will be very, very high. So all the things, and it sometimes you can bump into the road or somewhere else also. So many things has to be educated, okay. So there your automobile industries actually play a very, very important role in this last point. Then coming to the key EV technologies. So as I told you, so it includes electrical, electronic, information, and chemical technology. So chemical, especially for your battery designs and the battery management systems. So the first you have to integrate all these things. The first comes to your body design. So initially, when the EV was started to make an appearance on the road, you had 2 type of EVs. One is the conversion EV and the purpose-built EV. What is this conversion EV? In the conversion EV, so whatever you had your ICE, whatever the ICE was there, so you are actually converting that into an electric vehicle. So how can I convert my ICE into electric vehicles? Just by replacing your ICV by the electric motor and the power converter and the related power converter and the battery. But this experiment was not successful because you have to make lot of compromises, and lot of losses were also happening because that vehicle was built for your ICEV. So you have to make a lot of compromises. So this experiment was not very much successful. So then people started that it is useless in putting time, energy, everything in this conversion EV. Better we will go for a purpose-built EV. So the resulting EV suffers from greater curb weight, a higher center of gravity, and an unbalanced weight distribution. So these are the main things why the conversion EV is not very popular. So now the purpose-built EVs, here it allows an engineers to have an flexibility to coordinate and integrate various EV subsystems. Overall performance such as range, gradability, acceleration, and top speed can be improved by purpose-built EVs. Then the design concepts include the consistent weight saving design, low drag coefficient body design, and the road resistance concept. So this can be improved compared to your purpose-built EV to the converted EV. Now coming to the electric propulsion. So this is an heart of your EV. This is the one which is actually giving you an power to your wheels. This is the one which is actually driving your car. So it is converting your electrical energy to the mechanical energy in such a way that the vehicle is propelled to overcome aerodynamic drag, rolling resistance drag, and the kinetic resistance. So these are the different type of forces which will be actually acting on your vehicle, whether it is EV, whether it is ICEV, or whether it is HEV, anything it is. So these are the basic forces which will be acting on a car. So the electric propulsion system consists of motor drive, comprising the electric motor, power converter, and electronic controller. And this is the core of your EV propulsion system. The major requirement of motor drive can be summarized like this. It should have a high instant power and high power density. Because if you have to, for the gradability, especially if you're driving on a hill, so you should have the power has to be given very instantly, or when you're taking over the other vehicle, so you should have an instant power. Then the high torque at lower speeds for starting. This is very, very important. The torque speed characteristics or the character curves play a very, very important role, and climbing as well as high speed at low torques for cruising. That is especially in the highway cruising. So very wide constant torque and a constant power region, torque response, higher efficiency over wide range of ranges, high efficiency for regenerative braking. So this is the new concept or one of the major advantages propulsion system which we cannot find in your ICE based vehicles. So what is in regenerative braking? To put it in a very smaller or a very in a simple terms, you can actually charge your battery whenever you apply a brake. Means you are actually converting that kinetic energy into an electrical energy, because your motor will be acting as a generator. So the current will be flowing from load to the source by charging the battery. So this can be used. So this property can be used in order to recharge your battery. Then high reliability and robustness for various vehicle operating conditions, because the vehicle can be operating in the desert, in a smooth road, or in a rural region. Anywhere the vehicle can go. So the vibration, the noise will be very high, low, or the temperature can be high, low. So in whatever the temperature is there, your vehicle has to perform, your vehicle without any delays or any lags. Then the cost has to be very, very reasonable. With all these features included, the cost also has to be optimized. Then coming to the other thing, that is the energy source. As I told you, energy source is also a very, very important thing which plays in the EV. So in order to commercialize the EV, the main obstacles is one, the energy source. So what are the criteria, development criteria for energy source? It can be summarized like, it should have a very high specific energy and energy density. It means it has to give an instantaneous energy or instantaneous power, plus the range has to be improved. That is, the energy density of that energy source has to be more. Whether it can be a battery, it can be a flywheel, or it can be a supercapacitors, anything. Then high specific power and power density. Then fast charging and deep discharging capabilities. So the batteries what we use for your they will have one special character, that is the deep discharging capabilities. Means you can deep discharge them when compared to the normal batteries what we use for other home appliances. Then long cycle and service lives it should have. Then the low self discharging rate, as we all know that battery ideal over a period of will start discharging, it reaction will happen. Batteries should have a very low discharging rate and should have a very high charging efficiency. And it has to be very safer, because if thermal runaway happens, then your battery might explode, or whenever your car will collide or it will undergo an accident, you have to take care that battery should not explode. Okay, so these are the things what has to be taken care during your crash test. And the the cost effectiveness, again, the cost also plays a very, very important role for your energy source. Then it has to be maintenance free. Then it has to be environmental sound and recyclable. So again, the environmental factor is coming here because the batteries should be recyclable in nature. If they're not recyclable in nature, again, then that will again will cost will again again your electric vehicles will again be problematic for your environment. Then comes to the very, very important thing is that is the energy management. Why energy management is required? Because mainly because for the range. Okay, mainly because managing the range or optimizing the range. So to maximize of an onboard stored energy, we have to use intelligent way. So nowadays, all your EV, all your vehicles, especially whether it is your ICEVs or it can be your BEVs, everything is coming with this intelligent energy management system, and it needs to be adopted. So EMS coupled with navigation system can plan energy efficient routes, that is the shortest routes, then locate charging facilities for extended trips. This is the upcoming technology. Then modify range predictions on basis of traffic conditions. So the EMS can realize the following functions. The first thing is to optimize the system energy flow from the source to the load or from load back to the source. Okay, so it can be in a two-way direction. So use of sensory inputs from various EV subsystems. So this is the input from the sensors are very, very important. Then the current and voltage of the energy source during charging and discharging. Okay, it has to take care of that. It has to, because in LED batteries and all, if overcharging is happening, then it will release the hydrogen gas, which will be again harming the life of the batteries. Then the deep discharging, we have to take care of that also. Then the current and voltage of the electric motor, the ratings has to match whatever the power ratings of your motor, that has to be matched with the output of your battery. That will have matched basically by the power electronic or the power converters, which will come with the block which comes in between. They predict the remaining available energy and hence the residual driving range. This is very, very important. Then they suggest more efficient driving behavior if the driver is very rude in driving, because lot of energy can be actually wasted or can be presumed or can be used very intelligently by changing the driving pattern, because we have to maintain a certain speed. Okay, we have to maintain a certain speed, means your fuel efficiency will be very, very high. Fuel efficiency is nothing but your energy management system. So direct regenerative energy from braking to receptive energy sources. Then modulate a temperature control in response to the external climate, that is your AC. Whenever your AC is running in the car, definitely the fuel efficiency will come down. So you have to have an intelligent temperature control system inside your car. Then based on the external climate, then adjusting light brightness in response to the external environment. So all these things are happening because of the sensors and the sensor inputs. Then propose a suitable battery charging algorithm. Then they analyze the operation history of the energy source, especially the battery. Then diagnose any incorrect operation or defective components of the energy sources are there, either to replace the battery or we have to recharge the battery. So these are the things what your energy management system in your EV has to take care. Then comes to the last thing, that is the system optimization. As we all know that the EV system is having a lot of subsystems and it is a completely complex architecture that contains a multidisciplinary technology. So initially, all the EV automobile manufacturers mainly go for an computer EV simulations. Why? Because for the optimization of the performance improvement and cost reduction, then for manufacturers to minimize prototyping cost and time, because you simulate your motor, you simulate your energy source, you simulate your wheels, you simulate your design of the vehicle, then you integrate everything with each other, then you run a system. Okay, then you can find out where the problem is or what has to be replaced or what has to be redesigned, everything in a software rather than putting everything on an hardware. So it means it will minimize the prototyping cost as well as time. Okay, time is also a form of money for the manufacturers. Then to provide a rapid concept evaluation, by having a simulation, we can have an evaluation also very rapidly. should be based on the concept of mixed signal simulations, that is the multidisciplinary technologies are involved here. Then for the numerous iterative process to achieve a preferred system criteria. So a lot of iterations will happen in the design itself. So this can be again easily achievable by the EV simulation techniques. So now coming to a general EV configuration. So till now, I hope everyone are understood what are the key are there in the EV. That if I want to put a block diagram of an EV configuration, it will look like this. The first thing is you'll be having a brake and an accelerator. We don't have any clutch here because here we are not, you will be running a EV in the planetary gear system. So you are not having any conventional gear system what you use for your IC engine. So that is why you will be having only 2 pedals here. So the input from this pedal is fed to your electronic controller. Okay, the electronic controller will be actually giving the input to. So actually, if I want to say your EV configuration can be divided into 3 subsystems. One is the electric propulsion subsystem, then the energy source subsystem, and the auxiliary subsystems. So in the energy propulsion subsystem, the components are mainly your electric motor. So you have an electronic controller, so that will give an input to your power converter. So why I need a power converter? So it can be your DC, it can be your induction motor. So if you're having a DC here, definitely the energy output of the output of your battery will be DC in nature. So either you have to increase or decrease the level of DC, which should have to match your electric motor. The current and voltage ratings of your electric motor has to be matched. So that matching will be done in this power converter. If in case, if I have an iron motor, that is an induction motor here, so I should have an inverter here because I have to convert your DC to AC here. So that is the role of power converter here, the main role of power converter here. So whatever the output I'm getting here, the rotation of the rotor will be mechanically transmitted to the and differentials or a mechanical transmission source. Fine. So the entire propulsion subsystem has to be energized. So that energy can be obtained from your energy source subsystem. So it consists of energy management system, which the role just I explained in the previous slides. Then the energy source, it can be your battery, it can be charged on board, or it can be charged from the external source. Okay, this is the energy refueling unit. Then you have an auxiliary subsystems. So here your AC, your power steering, the power for all these things will be given by these auxiliary subsystems by using the auxiliary power supply. So the temperature control unit, the AC unit, the power system, and this is the steering wheel. So this is the generalized block diagram of your EV configuration. Now, if I want to convert that into any particular configuration, now you see I have actually replaced my power converter with the 3-phase PWM inverter, that is your pulse width modulation inverter. And since I'm using an 3-phase induction motor, so I have to have an inverter to convert my DC to AC here. So I have a nickel metal hydride battery system here as a form of energy source. Then this is a battery charger. This is the energy management system. So this is the AC power which is coming from the socket, which is used to charge this battery here. Then you have a cooler and heater here. Then this is the power. And you have a fixed gearing or a differentials, which is actually transferring your the electrical power into the mechanical power. So this is just an example to have to make you understand like how your EV subsystem or as in block diagram, it works like. Now coming to the EV propulsion system. So what here I have just the electronic controller. Okay, so what all can come in the electronic controller? So the individual unit can have these many systems. Okay, so these are the different control systems based upon my motors, my electronic controllers will vary. Okay, so this is variable voltage and variable frequency. If I'm going for an IM motor, that is an induction motor, so I can go for triple VF control system. This is the field oriented control system, MRAC, STC. So these fuzzy neural network control systems. So these are the different control systems which will actually be configured between your electric motor and the energy management system. So hardware, in order to realize this software, so we use a microprocessor or a microcontroller, DSP or a transputer. Then you have a power converter. So in the power converter, definitely we have to have an device. If you are running for an inverter, chopper or resonant kind of circuits, then they are all operated by a semiconductor devices. I think everyone are aware of this GTO, BJT, MOSFET, IGBT. So these are the devices or the switches what we use to design the topology of an inverter, chopper or anything. So this is the batteries. Then the electric motor, as I told you, simulation plays a very, very important role. The simulation will be your FEM, EM force or thermal graphics. So these simulations you can have. And these are the different kind of motors. Okay, motor, you can have induction motor and switch reluctance motor. HM, this is the hybrid motors or PM. So these are the different motors what we can use here. Then these are the wheels. Okay, so these are the various technologies which actually sit in this block diagrams. So here again I'm giving an overall block diagram. Okay, here I'm giving an overall block diagram. But if you are very much interested or if you want to do any research here, okay, if you want to do any research, for example, you can choose chopper, you can choose one related motor here. Usually you can pick up this, so you can design a software hardware and you can own battery own algorithm for your electric vehicle. So this is an overview what sits in what. So these are the different types of motors. So the DC motor drives, if I use a DC motor drive in an EV, so it is actually able to achieve a very high torque at a lower speeds and it is very easy to control. But it needs a careful maintenance because of frictions, because of the presence of slip rings, that is the brushes and the commutator and the brushes. If you go for a vector controlled induction motor drive, it offers very high efficiency, high power density, efficient regenerative braking, robust, reliable, and maintenance free. But it suffers a lower efficiency at a very high load ranges. If I go for a permanent magnet brushless motors, their high efficiency and power density are good when compared to other kind of motors. But it suffers from the difficulty in flux weakening control for the constant power and a high speed region. So during in this region, the flux weakening will happen in this one. Then the PM hybrid motor, when you hybrid two type of motor systems, so the advantage here is the auxiliary DC finding is also incorporated that in the air gap flux is a resultant of PM flux and a field winding flux. Okay, so when I actually enter into this hybrid motors, here I think I cannot cover in details in this, but if you guys have any questions in this, you please write to me or you can ask me at the last. Then it offers the optimal efficiency over a wide speed range. Then switch reluctance motors. Nowadays, people are very much interested in this. I mean, the auto car manufacturers, because of the simplicity and reliability in both motor construction and power converter configuration. Wide speed range, we can have a wide speed range, favorable thermal distribution, and efficient regenerative. But the problem is it suffers from the torque ripples and the noise problems. Then coming to the energy sources, this is the last portion. I mean, this is one of the important portion of your EV. So here you can have different type of energy sources. That is the batteries, that is the rechargeable batteries, fuel cells. You can have an ultra capacitance capacitor or the super capacitors. Basically, these are used for power densities. Okay, this can be used for higher power densities. Basically, they cannot be used as a single source for your EV. They can go with the hybrid mode. Okay, you can use them in the form of hybrid with other kind of sources. Then you can have a ultra high speed flywheels. So they are mechanical in nature. So the batteries, capacitor and flywheels are energy storage system in which electric energy is stored during charging. Okay, so this is mechanical, this in the form of electrical energy, and this is in the form of chemical energy. So the fuel cells are energy generation system in which electricity generated by chemical reaction. So here the fuel cell will actually generate electricity on board. Okay, on board it will generate by using your hydrogen. At present and near future, the batteries have been identified to be the major EV energy source because of their technological maturity and reasonable cost. Recently, both the fuel cells and capacitor have received substantial attention and have shown promising applications in the EVs in the midterm. Okay, nowadays the supercapacitors, because of because we need a very high instant power, and the fuel cells because they solve the problem of range. Okay, they solve the problem of range. So in long term, the use of flywheels as the energy source for EVs may be an alternative solution. So what are the different types of energy source for lead acid battery? relatively low cost, and they are high specific power. They have a high specific power, but they suffer from the short life cycle and the lower specific energy. Then coming to your nickel metal hybrid battery, relatively high specific energy, but relatively cost is high when compared to your other batteries. Then the lithium based batteries, they are having a very high energy density, voltage capacity, and a lower discharge rate, and they can be charged n number of times. Okay, n number of times, that is recharged 100 of times, and are more stable. But the disadvantage is it is fragile and requires protection circuit to maintain safe operation. Okay, because if you overcharge the lithium, then it will actually bring down the life of the lithium batteries. So you should have an extra protection circuit in order to for the deep discharge as well as the overcharging. Then ultra capacitors and ultra speed flywheels, they are exceptionally, they are having very high specific power. Then fuel cells, they fundamentally solve the key EV problem, that is the range, because it is as good as refueling your IC engine. But the problem is high initial cost, plus the technology is not matured till date. All batteries face a compromise among the specific energy, specific power, and cost. So you have to have a compromise. So if I want to remove this compromise, your hybridization will coming into picture. So use of multiple energy sources, so-called hybridization of energy sources, can eliminate the compromise between the specific energy and specific power. For example, in HEV, petrol is of high specific energy for a long driving range, where the battery is of high specific power for assisting fast acceleration and providing an emission-free operation. See, if I combine my petrol with my battery, then again it will also form your HEV. Okay, it will also form your HEV. So as I told you, nowadays the future is lying, sorry, not in the future, the hybrid electric vehicles are the future. So now I'll give you a brief introduction of your HEVs. So due to the limitation of available energy sources, the EV cannot offer a compatible driving range compared to ICEV, plus the charging time also plays a role. So if I want to come over that, the HEV is the answer. Using in the ICE and the electric motor has been introduced as an alternative solution before the full implementation of EVs. So what is an hybrid? Hybrid, as I told in the previous slide, the vehicle at least has two modes of propulsion. Okay, it should have two modes of propulsion. The possible combination include diesel electric, gasoline flywheel, or the flywheel bar battery. Or the two power sources may be paired in series, meaning the gas engine charges the batteries of the electric. Okay, this I'll tell you in the next slides. HEV is formed by merging components from a pure electric vehicle and a pure gasoline vehicles. So advantage of HEV, here you could see it can actually extend the range up to 2 to 4 times of an only BEVs. Okay, then it can offer a rapid refueling of liquid petrol or diesel, requires only little changes in the energy supply infrastructure, less polluting and less fuel consumption than the ordinary ICEVs. The drawback is, see, since the ICE is present in this HEV, as I told you, the petrol is always present with the batteries for your HEV. So I cannot say the zero emission concept. It has to compromise with this zero emission concept, because some greenhouse gases will come out because of this petrol. Then the complexity is very, very high, or it is very increased, because you are going for two different sources. So HEV may be purposefully operated as an EV in a zero emission zone. Now you can have, these are the different configurations on your HEVs, that is series hybrid, parallel hybrid, series parallel hybrid, and the complex hybrid. Now, if I want to tell you what is HEV, first we will see how the architecture of your gasoline vehicle is. So this is a simple architecture here. You could see this is the fuel refill. This is the fuel tank. So this is the fuel tank. So the fuel will run into this and it will actually go to your ICE here. So here the fuel will be burned, the energy will be released, that energy will be transferred to the wheel. So this is a very simple architecture of your gasoline vehicle. Okay, so if I want to put that one in the car, you could see this is the fuel tank, this is the fuel refiller, so this is the fuel pump, this is the exhaust system, this is the fuel line where the fuel will go, this is your internal combustion engine, and this is the electronic control module, Okay, and this is the fuel injection system. From here, using this one, your fuel will be, or your energy will be managed by using your ECMs, and that will be converted into a mechanical power, and it will be given to your wheels. So this is how your pure gasoline engine car will look like. Coming to your series. So as I told you, here actually I'm combining my petrol, that is gasoline, plus motor. So in the series you could see here, so this is the fuel, I'm refueling my gas tank, that is running to your combustion engine. So this is your ICE. This ICE is further, this is actually running my generator. So what will my generator will do? My generator will produce an electric current. Okay, this will produce an electric current. So here your generator is running is run from your IC engine, and that electric current is given to your power converter, and that is actually used to charge the battery. That battery is used to run in motor. Okay, it is run in motor, and that motor is actually driving your transmission. So this is happening in the form of series. Okay, so the IC is running, it is driving your battery, and battery is driving your motor, and motor is driving your wheels. So everything is happening in series. That is why this kind of architecture is known as series architecture, right? And coming to the parallel architecture. In the parallel architecture, the main difference is your wheels can be run by motor as well as your ICEs also, okay? Your wheels can run from both of this. How the architecture is looking like, you have a refueling input here. So this is a gasoline tank. You could see here, this is going into your ICE engine. Now your ICE engine is again connected to your battery pack, as well as your ICE engine is also directly connected to your transmission line. That is the transmission to your wheels. So your wheels can be run either from your ICE or from your electric motor. So this is driving your battery pack. So that battery pack is driving your electric motor or generator that is driving your wheels. So that is why this is known as parallel architecture. I think the participants, I'm giving you a very simple overall architecture because to make you an understand, like because I thought interdisciplinary participants are, so to have an basic things, I'm giving an generalized block diagram. But when you enter module by module, the complexity will increase here. Okay, but to give you a basic understanding, I'm giving you a simple block diagram here. Now coming to your series parallel. So if you see here, it will be running both in the series, sorry, it will be running in the both series mode as well as it will be running in your parallel mode. So this is till here, this is a series hybrid, and this green color line is your parallel hybrid. So again, the the fuel is filled here. That fuel will be running into your engine. Your power is splitting here. Okay, the power is splitting. This power splitter, what it will do, the engine, it splitting the power to the transmission line, else it can actually give to run the generator. Again, generator, power, motor and transmission, or gas tank, IC engine, power split and transmission directly. So here, that is why you can have either one of this architecture. And how, which architecture, that will be actually decided by your ECU. Okay, that is electronic controller module, which is actually controlling the entire engine as well as your motor. It will actually decide during, again in this one, again you are having different modes of operations, that in during starting, during cruising, during switch off, during standing. Okay, during these different operating conditions, this series and parallel will actually switch. Okay, it will actually switch. So for example, during starting we need high torque. Okay, we need high torque. So that time your wheel will be driven by motor, because motor will give you very high torque when compared to your engine. During cruising, during normal cruising, what it will do, it might switch off your engine and your car might run only with the motor. During running into the hill, okay, during, especially when you're driving in the hilly region, that time your wheels will be driven both by your engine as well as your motor. Okay, so that decision will be taken care by your ECM based upon the input from your brake pedal as well as your accelerator pedal. Based upon this input, your ECM will decide which architecture to follow, complex architecture. So now if I want to put your into a car, so this is the This is the traction battery. The battery pack is here. So this is the exhaust system, since we are having a hybrid system. So this is your internal combustion engine. This is your power electronics, this DC to DC converter, and this is your thermal cooling system. You could see here your traction motor is also there. Okay, so this is your traction motor. So your IC engine plus your traction motor, both are there here. And you can see the transmission. This is the battery. This battery is given to produce, to give an output, sorry, to run an auxiliary modes. Okay, so this is how your hybrid cars or hybrid system will look like. Now coming to your plug-in hybrid vehicle, that is PHEV. So the only difference here is your battery bank is not charged from your ICE engine. Okay, your battery packs is not charged from your ICE engine. It is charged by the external charging plug. Charger you will be plugging into your socket in the home, actually charging your battery packs. But here again, because this is a kind of parallel hybrid, because you can use either your electric motor or your internal combustion engine to traction power to your wheels. So this is how your plug-in hybrid vehicle will look like. Only the difference is you are having an external charging unit. Okay, so this external charging unit will be plugged into your plugging socket. Now coming to the pure battery vehicles. What is pure battery vehicles? Here you don't have any IC. So IC is not present. You could see here, this is an onboard charger. This is the charging plug. You are having multiple battery banks. Okay, you're having multiple battery banks. You are having a power converter. So that power converter, you could see the power can flow in the bi-direction. Why? Because of regenerative braking. Because of the regenerative braking, we are using, what is regenerative braking? You will be actually charging from the kinetic energy from your wheels. So this is the motor drive, this is the electric motor bar generator. So this is the transmission. This is your BEV architecture looks like. So here you could see the battery packs are more when compared to your hybrid system. When compared to your hybrid vehicles, you could see here more number of battery packs are there. Okay, so this is the traction battery pack. This is the charging port. So this is your electric traction, this is your motor. So you see the motor size is also very, very high when compared to the hybrid vehicles. So the rating also will be very, very high. So you are having a converter or a power electronic portion here. So this is a cooling system. Okay, this is a thermal management system. So this is the battery for providing an auxiliary, and this is the onboard charger inside your car. So this is your fuel cell EVs. So again, fuel cell EVs. So you will be if you are going for a compressed hydrogen, so you'll be refilling the tank with the compressed hydrogen. So this is the fuel cell stack. This is the power converter. Actually, here again, battery is there. Your motor is mainly driven from your battery. Here, the battery is getting charged from your power converter. Basically, you'll be having a generator. So that generator will be run by this fuel cell stacks will be there, where it will be converting into your hydrogen into the electric current here. Okay, but here the output will be your pure water. Okay, you will be having some output here. So that is a pure water. So this is how in the car it looks like. So this is the battery pack, this is the fuel filler, this is the fuel tank, that is the hydrogen, compressed hydrogen tank. So this is the fuel stack where your hydrogen is getting converted into electrical. So that is actually given to your power converter, okay, electronic converter or DC to DC converter. So that is driving your traction motor. This is the thermal system. So this is how your hydrogen fuel cell will look like. Now, if you want to compare everything on a same scale or in a same page, for energy source, propulsion, emissions, and different vehicle time. For gasoline, you see emissions are very, very high. The propulsion is your IC engine, and the energy source is your petrol or diesel. For hybrid electric, you're having emissions are there because of the presence of your energy, your petrol component and IC component. Because of that, you are having a CO2. But if you see the CO2 size, the picture size of CO2 is reduced when compared to this. When you have a plug-in, okay, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, again, since you are using your fuel, because it is hybrid in nature, since you're using fuel plus IC engine, but morely we are mainly depend on the battery here. Okay, the battery mainly we are using this one, your IC engine for a very small purpose. Okay, mainly your car is the traction power for your car mainly is given from your given from your battery. So that is why the emission has reduced half when compared to these two things. In a pure battery electric vehicle, zero emission you have. It is only driven by from your motor, and this is the battery pack is the main energy source. Then fuel cell, again, as I told you, water is an output here. Okay, this is the byproduct of your fuel stacks. Then it is driven by the motor and driven by the hydrogen here. So this is a comparison of different kind of electric vehicles and hybrid electric vehicles. And coming to the last thing, since I'm giving you the fundamentals of your vehicles, so vehicle safety is also very important. That is, the automotive safety also plays a very important role. Okay, the automotive safety mainly depends upon these criteria, that is the emergency care, education, vehicle engineering, road engineering, environment, then enactment and the enforcement from the government. So the scientific domain that is related to the study, design, construction, and regulation of technology to minimize the occurrence and consequences of a road traffic accident. So this is the formal definition of your automotive safety. So the infrastructure and vehicle safety both plays a very important role to have a safe trip for any passengers. Will have even a greater importance due to the high number of fatal injuries in road traffic accidents. Today, worldwide, there are more than 1.2 million road accident fatalities are occurring annually. So just to give you a brief overview of your automotive safety, you can have two things. Okay, you can have two type of safety measurements, that is the active safety measurements and the passive safety measurements. So the active safety measurements will come mainly whenever you are having an hazard prevention mode is on. Okay, this is the hazard prevention mode. You are having three things here. You have three different things in your automotive safety, that is hazard prevention, hazard mitigation, and damage reduction. So your passive will come once the accident has occurred. So your active will come before the accident. This is after the accident. If I put an accident as a brain line or a crash as a baseline, so your active safety components will come before this, and passive safety components will come after the crash. So now, so this is the timeline. If you see, this is the testing and evaluation methods for active safety, vehicle safety, that is eval. So what are the different type of control systems or the safety mechanisms what we have? For hazard detection, you have a adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning, lane keeping assistant, forward collision warning, and blind spot detection. Okay, so these are the different assisting systems for your driver in order to detect any hazard. Okay, in order to detect any hazard. Now the hazard has been detected, but still your vehicle is moving forward. Okay, so that time your hazard avoidance will be active. That is your anti-braking system or electronic stability control. So they will become active in order to avoid the hazard. Okay, in order to avoid the hazard. Now the crash is unavoidable. Now the crash is unavoidable. So your car is heading towards the crash. So you are having an adaptive headrest or pre-crash things, like you are having your once the crash has happened, then the passive will come in order to reduce the damage. That is by initiating the airbags, seat belts, collapsing steering, collapsing pedals. So these are the different passive safety systems. So here to develop testing and evaluation methods for active safety systems and encouraging manufacturers to build safer vehicles and consumers to buy them. So nowadays safety plays a very prominent role. So as I told you, active safety and passive safety, they all come with the built-in, these safety modules are coming nowadays in the form of built-in. And who is going to evaluate them? That is known as NCAP. Okay, they are having a, I think everyone are aware now, they gave you a 5-star rating. Okay, now whatever the automobile manufacturers will come, they have to by default mandatorily they have to go for this NCAP ratings, especially in the Indian market I'm talking, and for the US market you have FMVSS, and for Europe market you have different kind of evaluation schemes, but for Indian scheme it is NCAP. Okay, so you should have rate you among the 5-star. Okay, the car 5-star based upon criteria. This few examples for your active safety systems, which I have just told. So typical is your ABS, traction control system, or a stability control system. Emerging, so these are the upcoming technologies. Where you have a cruise control, automatic cruise control, steering control, suspension control, intelligent speed assistance, autonomous emergency braking, then lane departure warning, then pedestrian detection. So these are the emerging technologies in the active safety. Passive, I think everyone are aware of. Seat belts you have. Airbags, nowadays, I think Government of India has also made a very, the airbags has to be there in the base designs only. The Government of India is making an policy on that. Then body structure with programmed deformation. So this is the form of crush spots in the car. Then the retractable steering column, headrest vents, seats with anti-submarine effect, then fuel cutoff. Okay. Then emerging, so automatic emergency call. So whenever the car has gone for any crash, so the call will go to the emergency helplines, then automatic message to an emergency call center in case of crash. Okay, so now coming to the state of art EVs. So nowadays, the automakers took an renewed interest in the hybrid, seeking a solution for dwindling energy supplies and environmental concern, and created a modern history of hybrid cars. So in 1993, along with the numerous private players, automobile players, Ford, Chrysler, GM, and USDR, along with the government agencies, they combined to form a PNGV, that is Partnership for a New Generation of Vehicles, to create cars using alternative power sources, including development and improvement of hybrid electric vehicles. So in 1997, Audi Dio was the first European hybrid car to put into the mass production and hybrid production. In 2000, Toyota Pyrus and Honda Insight became the first mass market hybrids to go on scale in the United States. 2005, again, the hybrid Ford Escape, the first SUV was released, hybrid SUV. Basically, I'm talking about the hybrid SUV. Now, Toyota is the most prominent of all manufacturers when it comes for hybrid cars, and they have having an large number of hybrid versions, especially in the several Lexus vehicles. So apart from SUVs, certain other vehicles like your normal pickups, vans, other road vehicles are also going for an hybrid mode. Okay, so there are simple examples for your Nissan Leaf, Honda Clarity Electric, Audi e-tron, or Porsche Taycan. So this is your hybrid things like Honda Insight, Toyota Corolla hybrid, or Ford Fusion hybrid, or Hyundai Sonata hybrid. So these are the commercially available hybrid vehicles. So this completes the presentation. Thank you so much. If you have any doubts or if you want to give any feedback, please let me know. Thank you.
Dear Madam, it was a very good session. I would like to thank Dr. Rupa Manjunath for a very informative session. So participants, if you have any questions, please drop it in. I think we have one question from Dr. B.M. Anandram. So his question is, ma'am, by running a generator using petrol and charge the battery, is it cost effective in petrol electric car? So that is the question.
Yeah, see, actually, basically, he is talking about the series hybrid configuration.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is why the hybrid vehicles are costly. By default, they are very costly because of this complex architectures. And now again, the question might come when I can run my vehicles, especially the vehicle wheels with the IC engine. Why again I have to put a generator into that? Again, I have to charge that battery. So because if you have a zero emission, if you want to, yeah.
Really sorry. All the participants.
Excuse me, madam.
Yeah, one by one you can answer. Yeah, I'll just answer this one. So if the government has made a policy that no, you have to go for a zero emission, then that time if you don't have any onboard chargers, then this can provide.
Madam, you should unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was talking. I mean, did you hear my?
Yes, ma'am. Please continue.
Yeah, what I was talking is, 1 second. Talking is, see, if the government has come up with a policy that you have to go for a zero emission vehicle and you don't have any facility of, socket charging. So if you want to charge your battery, then this is the only purpose how you can charge your battery. Again, that will increase the complexity and definitely, yes, it will add up onto your cost. So that is why the policies plays a very, very important role here.
Madam, one clarification I want.
Yeah.
That actually are saying that we have got many number of batteries, several kilowatt hours of capacity maybe in the cars, in fact. So
Okay.
if I want to charge all those things with the
Mhm.
help of a single generator, then that generator capacity should be very large, and it has to take more time also to get it charged, in fact. Then in such case, it will not be loaded the vehicle, not load the vehicle, in fact.
See, yeah, that time your power converters will be your savior.
Okay, okay.
See, why power converters are there? Basically, their main intention is to, convert the level of the power, right? They can boost the power, they can buck the power. I mean, they can cut down the power. That is why we are going for an intelligent control algorithms, especially for your power converters.
Okay, okay, madam. Thank you.
Yeah.
Participants, if you have any other question, you can type it in, or else you can discuss with the speaker. We will share the email address and the LinkedIn profile with the participants, so that if you want to collaborate with Dr. Rupa for future research purpose, you can definitely go and contact Madam. So I think we come to end of this session. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to ask, I mean, I
Yes,
hope
ma'am.
the participants were clear with my slides. The concept, what I
Participants,
wanted,
if
yeah,
you would
what I
like to
wanted
respond.
deliver you. I mean, are you? I mean, was it clear from the participants? I'm asking.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. It was okay.
Yeah, it was clear, madam. It was clearly visible.
Okay, okay. I mean, understandable.
Yeah, it was understandable.
Okay, 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 okay.
Yes. So I would like to thank Dr. Rupa Manjunath for taking out the time from her busy schedule to participate in this faculty development program and transfer the knowledge from her experience to all the participants. So I thank you, ma'am, for your contribution.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for providing me an opportunity.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Anything is there, you please write me a mail, or I mean, we
Sure.
can have an
Sure.
interaction.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you. Yes. Thank you all the participants. So we will meet at 2:30. We will have the next session by Mr. Sriram N. So he is the manager from AIIRF. So we will discuss about the startup ecosystem in India. So see you all. I think many of the